Nintendo has no shortage of in-game leaderboards that have been absolutely destroyed by hackers, but when it comes to Mario Odyssey, we have what might possibly be the worst leaderboard in any game, and the story behind this leaderboard's downfall is both fascinating but also scary.
Look at all these people got 55.
Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with Odyssey's leaderboard, but if you aren't, then let me catch you up to speed. Once you beat the game, you unlock a Koopa that you can race in just about every kingdom. Beating the Koopas not only rewards you with moons, but it also rewards you with an in-game time on the leaderboard. The leaderboard also stores your times for the Bound Bowl races, the RC car race, and it even displays your scores for both the volleyball and jump rope minigame. With 13 Koopa freerunning races alongside 5 additional minigames, the leaderboard's incentivize players from all around the world to return to these minigames and fight for a top spot. But within just a few weeks of the game's release, this new and fresh leaderboard would begin to wash itself away, and it all started with one person who was struggling to beat the jump rope minigame. They had collected everything the game had to offer, which included both volleyball moons, but nonetheless, they couldn't quite figure out how to get 100 on jump rope. While most people would either follow a tutorial or give up, Pieman Rules had a third idea. If he could code a program that could make Mario jump for him, then he wouldn't have to go through the pain and suffering of completing the jump rope challenge. Luckily for Pieman, he was able to find code from someone who goes by the alias of Shiny Quagsire, in which he then modified their code. The original code was used to draw posts with a microcontroller in Splatoon, but with Pieman's modifications, the code now made the microcontroller press the A button every 35 frames, which allowed for Mario to not only surpass 100, but the code then took him all the way to a score of 213 before it failed. What makes the jump rope so difficult in the first place is that it is constantly changing speeds. It will gradually speed up all the way until you get to 50, and then anything past that will have it slowing down, speeding up, and so on and so forth. While Pieman had achieved his goal of beating the jump rope challenge, he wondered if he could modify the code in a way in which Mario jumps in conjunction with the speed of the jump rope. One Python script later, and Pieman had written a program that made it impossible for Mario to fail the jump rope challenge.
The only reasons I chose to end it after 9 hours of jumping was, well, one, I was going to be asleep when it hit 99999, and that's no fun. I wanted to be there. And two, I figured if I was going to ruin the leaderboards, I should try to make the top score something that's at least reasonably achievable by a human being.
An in-game leaderboard getting compromised is not exactly surprising since people always find a way to cheat, but what Pieman did here was honestly very clever and impressive given the game hadn't been out for a month yet. But what would start out as one person cheating the jump rope challenge would quickly turn into hundreds of people, and then thousands of people, and before we knew it, there were tens of thousands of people, all of whom had achieved a maxed out score of 99,999, and it was all thanks to this bird. If you throw out Cappy and then talk to Talkatoo right before Cappy hits Talkatoo, then the camera will lock itself in place. This in itself is not very useful. However, if you do the aforementioned sequence of inputs and then roll away from Talkatoo, the camera will not lock until you pan the camera back towards Talkatoo. So if you roll away and then jump and pan the camera towards Talkatoo while you are still airborne, not only will the camera lock itself in place, but so will Mario if you do a ground pound after your jump, allowing for the jump rope challenge to be completely cheese. From there, all you had to do was leave your Switch on for 17 hours, and just like that, the #1 spot was all yours. Since this had gotten so out of hand, Nintendo went out of their way to patch the glitch, and with that came them also cracking down on the leaderboards in the 1.2 version update of Mario Odyssey. But not long after this patch came another glitch that broke the leaderboard, and it was once again an alternative method for cheesing the the jump rope challenge. Near the jump rope, there are these 5 letters that you can capture, but even though they are near the jump rope challenge, they can't be brought out of their designated zone since their one and only intended purpose is to collect this moon. But if you put the letter A and M in this corner and then drop the scooter onto the letter M in a way in which the scooter is facing towards the sky, then you are able to capture the M and clip it into the A, which allows for the A to escape the designated Mario area. Now there are alternative methods to this glitch, and it is possible for every single letter to escape, but nonetheless, if you take any given letter to the jump rope challenge, then you will get the same result, which is the tears of whoever made the challenge in the first place. Now I think I've made it pretty clear at this point just how much players had gone out of their way just to break this one mini game, but what about the other 17? Well, in 2017, another mini game was cheesed, and it was cheesed by the same man who had originally cheesed the jump rope challenge. Pieman was back in Python, trying to write a program for volleyball, but this turned out to be much more difficult than his last project. Beforehand, the only variables Pieman really needed to worry about were Mario and the timing of his jumps, but now, since he was dealing with a mini game that required more than just one primary variable, he had to search harder for a solution that would allow him to once again cheese the game. Now, Pieman could have written a program in which Mario automatically tracks the volleyball, but as per usual, Pieman had a better trick up his sleeve. Instead of using Mario, he'd instead go into the game's 2-player mode and use Cappy to hit the ball for simplicity's sake. If he could write a program in which Cappy tracks the volleyball, then he wouldn't have to worry about Mario, which is exactly what he did just weeks after breaking the jump rope challenge. Jump rope had been broken, volleyball had been broken, and soon to follow would be the 13 KFR minigames, thanks to some totally legitimate gameplay. While the RC car race would meet a similar fate to the other KFR minigames, the 2 Bound Bowl races would have their own unique circumstances. Iceburn Circuit, which was the longer Bound Bowl race that was unlocked after you beat the game, was cheesed almost immediately after the game came out. Normally, if you try to go off the main course, then you will be brought right back to the track, but with some clever movement, you are able to do this shortcut, which skips about half of the entire track. Naturally, players began to grind Iceburn Circuit using this glitch, but come April of 2020, Roddle, who was the undisputed champion, got a time of 120.68, which remains as Mario Odyssey's longest standing world record. While Iceburn Circuit had this huge shortcut, Snowline Circuit had a glitch that might as well be akin to Mario Kart Wii Ultra shortcuts given how much it abuses the track. The first lap is completed as intended, but as soon as you finish the first lap, you go off to the side like this. Once you do this, the game will get confused by putting you back at the starting line alongside putting you in 8th place. If you repeat the same respawn on the second lap and then follow it up with this movement, the game will put you a lap forward as a way of making up for initially placing you backwards, allowing for you to skip the third lap and ultimately finish way earlier than you're supposed to. Now, of course, there is more nuance to this glitch, but the basic idea here is that we are abusing the Bound Bowl's respawn system to skip the third lap. Funnily enough, while this does grant you a faster time, you still end up finishing in 8th place, so it is impossible to use this glitch as a means of winning the race. But the tomfoolery wouldn't stop here, as a new and faster method of the glitch would be discovered. Once again, the first lap is done the intended way, but this time you go through the second lap normally all the way until the end. Once you get to the end, you hop on top of this archway and pass the finish line to complete lap 2. If you then pass it again in the opposite direction, the display in the bottom right will say that you are in 8th place, similar to how the other glitch puts you in 8th place after the first respawn. Once your 8th place is on display, you want to then cross the line in the correct direction again, and then cross backwards once more, but with a high altitude. What will happen is that you will now be at the end of lap 3, and it will count once you cross the line again, because you were so high in the air that the game was unable to detect you were going backwards, meaning that the game is once again fooled into thinking that you did the entirety of lap 3. The tale of Mario Odyssey's leaderboard is a bittersweet one. While it's interesting to see all the clever ways in which players have broken some of these minigames, it's extremely disappointing to see Nintendo's lack of effort when it comes to keeping the leaderboards clean. Hacks such as super speed are available to just about everyone nowadays, which results in hundreds of people just ruining the fun for everyone else. Hopefully, in the future, we will be able to open up a Nintendo games leaderboard without it being plagued by people pretending to be YouTubers, let alone people who have slurs as their username.